I had a big old pie, slice of humble pie, and I did not get another job for about a year after that. I moved back in with my parents. I auditioned and came close and a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff, but I didn't get anything. I was broke. Um, and it was really, I mean, it was such a pivotal experience for me because boy, do I know every single line backwards and forwards when I walk onto a set now.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan. Happy New Year, everyone. I know I said I was taking a break, but I had to share this one before I take a few weeks off. This chat is rejuvenating, powerful, conscious, and all-around fun. Jamie is the best. She's a wizard, full of magic, plus she's also kind, caring, compassionate, wise, chilled, insightful, and the list goes on. It was an absolute pleasure to chat with her, and I could have spoken to her for many more hours. I was also lucky enough to meet her kids, who you'll occasionally hear in the background, but it's all good and fun. Last housekeeping item, I'll also upload the video of this chat on my new YouTube page. If you'd like to see it, it's under Michael Kahan. I'll try my best to upload future videos, but let's get into it. So today's guest, Jaime Ray Newman, can do it all. She's an Academy Award winner, actor, director, and producer who's been in too many things to name, such as Catch Me If You Can, The Punisher, Rumour Has It, Dopestick, Eureka, Midnight Texas, The Time Traveler's Wife, Eastwick, Rubberneck, Bates Motel, Satisfaction, Grimm, The Magicians, Drop Dead Diva, Skin, where she won the Academy Award for Best Short Film, which she also produced with her husband Guy Nattiv, who wrote and directed it. So as you can imagine, we cover a lot. We chat about the truth behind her IMDB profile, not taking no for an answer, pivoting and her moving forward mindset, her love of acting, the no's, producing, rejection, the highs and lows of birth, miscarriages, IVF, surrogacy, becoming a mother, and her working relationship with her husband, Guy. Before we get into this epic chat, if you'd like to keep up to date with the latest info regarding the podcast, follow Funny in Failure on Instagram and Facebook. I often post short clips and other cool stuff to keep you in the loop for upcoming and previous episodes. Also, if you'd like to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram and Twitter under Michael_Kahan. That's Kahan with a K. And lastly, the podcast comes out every week, 5 p.m. Mondays, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any other terrific episodes. I hope you enjoy. I read that at the age of 6, you were performing at bat mitzvahs. Is that true?
Okay, so when IMDB was invented like 800 years ago, my cousin Adam, who is 10 years older than me, and I was in love with him when I was really little, I sang at his bar mitzvah. Yep. Okay, and so when IMDb first came out, I mean, I think I was like 20 or just starting out, and he added that to IMDb, not thinking that that would haunt me for the rest of my life, that that my parents like pimped me out to sing at bar mitzvahs as a 6-year-old.
Oh, that's so cute. I thought you were doing this. So was this just a gag?
Yeah, I sang at his bar mitzvah, not bar mitzvahs, plural, but I did sing it. I instead of Once in Love with Amy, I sang Once in Love with Adam. One in love. Yeah. So that was that is a false.
Oh, damn, I was so excited. Can you remove it, or once it's on IMDb, it's on IMDb?
I think it's there forever.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to start making up stuff about myself then. That sounds like a great idea. Does it come up a lot? Because I'm assuming this is not the first time.
Yeah. People have said to me, God, you were like singing, you were hired to sing at bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs when you were a child. And I was like, no, I wasn't.
So I also read that you were a high achiever, and we come from Jewish backgrounds, and you need to correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like, actually you said, I think B's weren't an option. There was no such thing as getting in a B. Is that true? And I also I wrote down a few points that you earned, that you started a production company called Apollo Productions. And I just find that crazy. How old were you? You would have been about 16. And I just find this mind-blowing and crazy that at such a young age, you had this like foresight to create something which really set you up in multiple ways.
Yeah. So when I mean, I think I was 15 maybe. I was a junior in high school. And there was a play that I really loved called Keely and Do. And it was a very controversial play about abortion. And my high school every year, and I went to a very creative arts high school. You submitted ideas for plays that you wanted them to do, and they took one look at the play I wanted to do, and they were like, "No way are we touching that with a 10-foot pole." So I literally took my bat mitzvah money. I took like the $5,000 I got from my bat mitzvah or whatever, and I said, "Okay," and I made it equity. I rented a theater. I hired actors, real adult actors. And cast myself and hired a director and put on this play. And I think it ran for 3 weekends or something like that. And it was, got all my friends to do props and sets and lighting and the whole thing. And it was just this revelatory experience. I produced a couple more plays, and then they let me graduate a semester early so I could do sort of my final project in high school. I had already gotten to college and whatever, but I really liked producing. I really, really liked it.
We'll get into the producing side stuff in a bit because this is crazy. So did you have like this acting and producing bug before? Why did you create this purely so you could express yourself in this play? Like what actually made you do this? Because that's not normal. That is crazy, and it's great foresight, and that drive, especially at such a young age, is mind blowing.
I don't even think I questioned it. I was like, okay, I need to act in this play. So if my high school won't do it, then I guess I'm just going to have to produce it. Just going to have to make it myself. I'm just going to have to figure out a way to. And I remember because there weren't even cell phones back then. This is like in 95.
Oh, it's so hard.
And I remember standing at the phone booth in my school calling Samuel French because they wouldn't give me the rights to this play. And so I had to find the writer who I think was at what's that festival called? Anyway, Lee, is it Lee Blessing? No, I forget who even wrote it, but I had to find the writer to convince the writer to give me the rights to the play. And I did. But I remember standing with a big bucket of quarters in the phone booth in my high school, just calling New York, from Michigan.
Because one of the many reasons that I love you is that you wanted to do something, and you got to know, and you decided to go through another way to achieve your goals. And I know in this industry, for example, that you get way more no's than yeses. But you just it just sounds like you did it. Did you have any of that external negative voices saying you can't do it or get someone else to do it? Or did you just do it like that? Just trust your gut and your intuition?
I grew up with parents who there was no such thing as no. In terms of I don't mean you can have as many Reese's Pieces as you want. I don't mean like that.
Yeah.
I mean it they just from day one, they were like, if you want something, then you just go ahead and work and you'll get it, which on the one hand was amazing because I never thought that I could not do something. It never crossed my mind that there was something out there that I could not do. But when I moved out to LA after college, it's that's not the real world. I had experienced so little rejection. The only time I really had experienced that bitter taste of rejection, I auditioned for Juilliard. I got called back and I didn't get in. And that was the most devastating thing to me ever. And it took me so long to get over it. But that's what our lives are. I mean, 99.9. I always say to people, when you look at IMDb, for every one job I got, I probably auditioned for 150 others that I didn't get.
Crazy. It blows my mind also just from the rejection side. And this is why I love actors in particular. It's because, as you said, 1 out of 150, that's brutal. It can destroy you. And, we're not used to hearing a no so often. And that can really steer people away? And if you don't love it, why do you like continue? How do you handle it? Have you had to like change your mindset around this? No.
A lot of therapy.
Yeah, that's the
I mean, it's the
tick.
truth.
Yeah.
And a great partner. I mean, a partner who he knows how to. He gives me like a window. When I'm upset about something, that I didn't get or whatever, he just says, "You have today to grieve, and then tomorrow you've got to move on." And I know, we'll talk about producing later, but producing has helped curb the sting a lot.
Nice.
Because I have just a lot more tools in my tool bag now. Okay, so I didn't get this one thing, but I'm producing 5 projects, 2 of which I'm in, 3 of which I'm not in, but I'm so passionate about it. I'm so in love with them, or 15 projects that we're producing. And, my schedule is so full.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we've got like 14, 15 projects that we're producing, balls in the air.
Wow.
And it takes the sting out of it, because that I have a lot more control over. Whereas what I auditioned for, which is, most of my acting life, is I have zero, no control.
We've had so many people on this podcast, and even just people I've spoken to off air, like they will do a brilliant part, but their eye color's not quite right, or they're too short, or they just don't seem to look in alignment with the other co-star, just like ridiculous things. And as you said, that's completely out of your control. You might do a great performance, but you just might not look the right part. And that drives me nuts. And I assume, you're going back from your college days, your high school days, you can kind of play whatever you want. And now you're being told, I'm not sure if this is true. Oh, you're a little bit too short, or, oh, your hair's not right. Tell me how you deal with that as well. I know you said therapy, but that's tough, especially if you're like one of the few people in the room. I can see you nodding. Share your wisdom with me.
I mean, I don't know if I call it wisdom. It's just, years and years and years of doing it. What do they say? Like, you need the skin of a rhinoceros and the heart of a sparrow. I mean, like I said, therapy helped a lot to normalize it. I have a wonderful therapist who basically all of her clients are in this business. So she sees everything. And I come to her with what I think is so unique, and she just instantly levels it.
Yep.
And she helps me keep the highs from not getting too high and the lows from not getting too low. You gotta, because the highs can be like really fucking high, especially after you've gone through a lot of lows, then those highs are just, it's this intense drug. So you got to like level that off too, because you're going to come, you can get the greatest job of your life, and then you could not, which has happened to me, and then not work for a year. That's happened. I mean, I'm coming off of a series right now. I just wrapped, like, I'm probably not going to work for another year. That's just how it goes for me.
We won't put it into the ethos, but you're still doing all the producing and stuff. But what I find like crazy, because I've done stand up before, and you can have the greatest laughs. Well, actually, I'm a terrible example, but I'll use other stand-up comedians. They can do an amazing gig and everyone's loving them. And then the next gig, no one's really laughing for whatever reason. And the high and low, it's like a really big seesaw, if that makes sense. And you can see people, especially at the start, and no judgment, because I've definitely fit into this category, the validation side. If you're not getting work or things aren't going well, I'm just speaking out loud. I would imagine that you've mentioned that you're coming from like school and things are going really well, and then you're getting your first bit of rejection and things aren't necessarily going to the plan. You would have had to do like more than therapy. You would have had to really realize like who you are, because the external validation will never beat the internal validation. And I know you've got a great support system in your husband, for example, but I'm sure like after school, you would have had to like just really just put everything down and just figure out like, who am I? Why am I doing this? Why do I love it? And stuff like that. I know it's very loaded.
For me, it was a slow burn. I still have trouble, it's just, it's took many years of rejection. And the word rejection is not even right, because now coming at it from the producer standpoint and seeing wonderful auditions by wonderful actors, and they don't get the job. Only one person gets the job. You know, it's a puzzle, and it's just, you know, a director or producers figuring out what is that exact puzzle piece. And that you can have the most extraordinary audition or the most extraordinary, you know, take vision for what this character is, but like if you don't fit into that family, if you don't fit into, you know, whatever, it's just you have to move on. It is, what's the next. And I mean, look, so I graduated, I went to Northwestern. I started at Boston University. I was in the theater conservatory there. I really didn't like it. I left, I went to Northwestern, which is in Chicago. I was an English major. I produced a bunch of plays. I acted a lot. I loved it. I moved out to LA, and within like 3 months, I got on a soap opera. I got like a 3-year deal on General Hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, on General Hospital. This was like after 3-4 months of being in LA.
All right.
And I thought like, well, this is easy.
Yeah.
Oh shit, okay. This is real easy. And about a year in, of me showing up late to work and
really
knowing all my lines and hanging out with friends till late the night before, and I was fired. My ass got fired. They blew me up in a building explosion.
I'm glad that you can laugh. Oh.
And I came back as like an angel for, I guess the audience was kind of pissed about that.
So did they recast you as an angel?
No, I came back as myself as an angel. I like haunted, you know, some people for a little while, and then she eventually, I just sort of, I think that there's someone named after me, after my, you know, it was, but anyway, I had a big old pie, you know, slice of humble pie, and I did not get another job for about a year after that.
Oh,
I
wow.
moved back in with my parents. I auditioned and came close and a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff, but I didn't get anything. I was broke. And it was really, I mean, it was such a pivotal experience for me, because boy, do I know every single line backwards and forwards when I walk onto a set now. I'm early.
Well, I just find it, okay, I've got so many questions. I've got literally 100, but going from an experience like that, which can be brutal and damaging to the ego and the confidence, that you managed to spin it around, and now it sounds like you're very well prepared, and I've heard other stuff as well. But sometimes you can go through an experience like that and blame the industry, blame everyone else, and play the victim game. But you're smiling the whole time, so you can like see it for what it was. That's super cool and like rare in a sense. You didn't like run away or play the blame game, and you decided to be better.
Well, I dug my own grave in that situation, you know, like that now with, you know, retrospect, but yeah, I mean, it was a really, it was a big lesson for me. And now it's 20, you know, 17, 18 years later, I can look back at it and say, I needed to learn that lesson.
Ooh. Still very rare. That would have been like very traumatic for you, I would imagine. You know, you've announced to the world that you're moving to LA, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure your parents were supportive, but I'm sure they would have had their doubts. I don't know about your external community, and you're going there, and then within a year, you're going back home. That could crush one's ego and confidence as well in a way that potentially someone doesn't want to actually improve and continue it. If you remember at the time, what actually made you want to continue?
You know, it's this thing about our business is that it's a drug. It is a drug. And the thing that's so addictive about it is that you never know when, you know, if you quit today, tomorrow could have been the thing that could have blah, blah, blah. So I guess I never thought about like quitting, but because I have friends who like in their 40s just now are coming into their own, you know, I mean, people who, it's not like being a doctor where you go to medical school, you do your residency, you open up your own practice. Like there's just a well-trodden path. that many people before you. And so if you just connect A to B to C, you'll get there. This is like the zigzaggiest of zigzags. And no one ever will have will have walked the same artistic path as you. No, but no one. So you never know what's around the corner. You never, like I said, I got this job, and then a day later, a film the guy had been waiting on for 2 years. We never thought it was going to go. They said yes. Or even me with this job. Like, I just put myself on tape, forgot about it. And then a month later, they called and they said, you're moving to Vancouver for 5 months. It's so wild that you spend this really intense period of time on an audition. You invest every ounce of your heart, your soul, your imagination, your creativity, and then you press send and you gotta just completely release it. They're asking you to like fall deeply in love and then forget that you ever met that person.
Just ban like that. That's
not a, like, it's eternal sunshine of the spotless minded,
Okay, I've got 1,000 questions. When you say like it can just happen like that, people are brought up on the podcast, and I'm just trying to like figure out within my mind, there seems to be, and I don't know what the right balance is. I'm sure you've got the right balance for you. There's this like future projection of your life will be amazing, something amazing will happen, which is part of the industry. But then at the same time, it can also take away from being in the present moment because you're so not you, but one is so focused on the future and when things going to happen. And we hear on this podcast, so many people like, I was just waiting for that one thing to happen. I was waiting for that one thing to happen and hoping my life would change. And some of the guests have said that if they had that mindset, then they weren't living in the present moment and they wouldn't be able to appreciate their life being changed because their life needs to change now. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, I've never, like, I guess I always was waiting for my like Friends moment,
Yeah.
That's when I moved to LA, like Friends was the big thing. And it just has never come my way,
We'll agree to disagree. You have had an incredible from an outside perspective.
Well, I've never had that one thing that just switched everything for me, but I'm really at peace with, like, that's just, I want to be in this business till the day I die. For just years and years, I want to be acting, I want to be producing, and that's really okay. I can be like a working character actress. I mean, I just did a miniseries where I got to wear a suit. I got to be in a completely different body, a wig, no makeup. Like, people don't even know it's me in this thing. And it's just the coolest thing. Like, let me do that forever. And I'm so happy. You don't have to know I'm in it. That's fine.
Can I just comment, which is so nice and refreshing? You're smiling and you're glowing, talking about something that you love. And that's also very rare. I know, like, from a non-creative perspective, I come from an accounting background. And it's not very common to see someone smile and talk about in such a loving, uplifting way their career. And I just wanted to make that as a side point because I think that's really cool and it shows that you actually love what you're doing.
Well, I better, otherwise it's too much. It's too much pain.
That's true, but still, some people still do it. They still have.
That's true.
That, everyone's got their own journey. I'm just curious now, what motivates you now, and has it had to change over the years?
I honestly, I think that, like, the purity of it has stayed the same. Like, if you sort of sift through all of the layers of the whatever, the insecurity and ego and all that stuff, all that muck. I love the arts. What can I say? It's the same engine that, like, the 10-year-old in me who fell in love with acting and being on stage and saying other people's words and creating characters and escaping and being in front of an audience and storytelling. I think that purity is still there.
Oh, that's very cool. And going back to is this the right word? The brutality of the industry? Are you a more resilient person outside of your career from dealing with a lot of the hardships or the rejection or whatever you want to call it? Has it, like, fed into other areas of your life?
That's a very good question, Terry Gross. I don't know. Do you know who Terry Gross is?
No, I don't, but I like the very good question.
Look her up. She's a great interviewer.
Okay.
That's a really, really good question. Yeah, for sure. For sure. How could it not?
Yes.
You just become like shit just slides off you more, and I will say that, marrying an Israeli, who
I would imagine.
was in the army, like
No
grew
bullshit
up.
attitude.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He, as all of his grandparents are Holocaust survivors, like he also brought a whole new level of, this too shall pass. And there's a Hebrew word, Kadima, like forward. We just move forward because what other choice do you have?
Oh, okay. I love this. Tell me more about this because that's quite like a spiritual philosophy through my understanding, because I've heard that before. It's like understand what's happened, but don't look too much in the past, but keep on moving forward. And that's very hard when one doesn't live that way at the start. Has it just been like a constant, like, we're going to like put you back in alignment, or what's been the relationship with that moving forward aspect?
Oh my God. I mean, when I, like I said, I was raised by parents who told me, like, if you work hard enough, you'll get it. Well, that doesn't apply to our business. Maybe in producing. And that's maybe why I like producing so much. That, like, the squeakiest wheel for sure gets the grease. If you just keep on and keep on and keep on and just don't ever fucking give up, if you are utterly relentless, yeah, there's a really good chance that you're gonna produce whatever you want to, that you'll make it happen. With acting, it's just random. And especially now with like self-taping, it's you and a camera and maybe someone on Zoom reading opposite you. It's very isolating, and you're in a giant echo chamber. So it just has nothing to do with tenacity. And that was really, that's been a decades long learning curve for me, because I had no idea what it felt like to have thick skin when I came out to LA. I was like baby bird thrown to the wolves, my head tossed around.
But isn't that kind of cool that you go through that and you can see how much stronger it's made you and how it has fed into other areas of your life? And I'm sure like there's less time like worrying and overthinking about like trivial things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good lesson for all of us. I'm certainly, want to impart that to my two little kids, to my girls, that, life isn't fair. Being fair is subjective. You have to work really, really hard, and sometimes you don't get what you want, but it will teach you how to pivot.
Oh,
and that's like a big, great thing in therapy, learning how to pivot and learning to make space for something new. The surprise of one door closes, another door opens, 50 doors close, a window opens, and what's in that window?
okay. You need to tell me more about the pivoting, because I'm just speaking out loud again. If I'm trying my best and I don't get something, that's not nice. And as you said, that's not necessarily how the world works in this industry. And I know that when I've like done like an amazing screenplay, well, I feel it's an amazing screenplay, it hasn't been made. I'm like, but it's so good. I put so much time. But then as you said, the magical word, and I need to understand this better, it forces you to pivot and maybe write something else or do something else or do improv comedy, for example. This is a magical word, and I want you to just word vomit everything you know about pivoting and how it's helped you be the whole person that you are.
Pivoting equals mental health. The ability to pivot, that having that tool in the proverbial toolbox, is the way you can get yourself out of the depression and the brutality, as you said, of our business. Being flexible, being open. And if you just keep pounding on the same fucking door and no one is opening it, so what are you going to do? Like, just sit in front of that door your entire life? There are other doors. And that's what's so cool about our business, is that it's unlimited. It's unlimited. Like, I feel bad for anyone who wants to become a veterinarian because there's like 8 vet schools in the US. And if you don't get into one of those, you're out of luck. But with us, you know, we had this, Guy and I, my husband and I had this, we got the rights to this project called Skin. It was a true story. And for, you know, 7-8 years, we were trying to get this thing made. Nobody wanted to make it. Nobody wanted to make it. We sent it out to about 100 producers, and we got passes from everyone. And we decided that we would literally like take our retirement money and make a short film. That's a proof of concept. It was just a proof of concept to show, you know, our vision for what this thing could be. And that, you know, that opened up every door, you know, that was a huge open door for us. But that was after 7 years of nobody making the feature. So imagine if someone would have said yes to the feature, however many years before that, and we wouldn't have gone on to make the short, and we wouldn't have gone on to blah, 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 blah.
There's a similar concept which has happened a lot on this podcast where someone auditions, they don't get the role, they feel they did an amazing job. And then like 10 years later, casting director or producer remembers them like, we loved you. And like, why don't I even remember that? And then they get cast. But going back to Skin, you won an Oscar for that, right?
For the short.
Amazing. And I think this is a great story for everyone in that you kind of got the nose and you're like, well, I believe in something. You made it and it kind of changed a lot for you. And I'm sure it even helped massively with your confidence and probably 20,000 other emotions. And when I heard this story or part of this story, I'm like, wow, like you actually did it after that many no's, after that length of time, you still believed in it and continued. Also very rare. Why not give up after those 7 years? Like, why actually do it? Yeah.
Well, one other thing about the short that I want to say is that the short didn't get into, you know, it didn't get into any of the major film festivals. And you know, Guy has been, all of his films, all of his shorts have been to Berlin, Sundance. They've won those festivals, Toronto. And we got turned down by all those festivals. And we were just like, well, okay, you know, we didn't make this, we made this, as I said, as a proof of concept. And the feature got made because of the short. It was well before the Oscars. So, and then we won this small festival in LA, although they're becoming bigger. It's a wonderful festival called Holly Shorts. And that was like an Oscar qualifier. And, you know, all right, we'll just, you know, never in a million years thinking that but so that too was a lesson in making your art and the journey of Skin the feature. The reason we stuck with it for so long is because we really fucking believed in it. We really, really wanted to get this story out there. We spent, you know, a long time getting the rights. Guy spent a long time writing it. We spent a long time getting the right producers. Oren Moverman, who's a tremendous producer, you know, was attached, and now he's gone on to, he's producing, you know, many other of our projects.
Oh, nice.
But you know, in terms of producing, like if you're not obsessed with that story, then there's no reason you should be doing it, because these projects take years and years. It took us a decade to get this made. And
sorry, go on.
And I was paid nothing. Like I made, you know, Skin the feature, I made, you know, zilch, but I don't care because it was the greatest experience of my life, you know?
Oh, okay. I wrote down like shoot your shot, and you know, I'm using me as an example. Often like Juan or me, we can say we want to do something, but then when shit hits the fan, i.e. length of time and money, and I think you said you took money out of your retirement funds. That's scary. That is so scary.
Terrifying. It was terrifying. We didn't have kids yet. I will say that.
Still, all of these like mental gymnastics would have gone through your head, and you did it. And we said this at the start, this is an industry where you kind of need to put yourself out there, and it's not easy. Like you've done a lot of things, and I think I heard you on another podcast where you still need to like kind of get yourself in that room, like not force yourself on people, but you still need to kind of like push yourself and put your hand up and say like, come and see me for these things. But you actually did it. And this is what I hear in even the business world. If you want to achieve something, You actually have to go out and do it. You don't need to necessarily wait for the gatekeeper. I guess that's also kind of cool from the producing side, is that you can actually do it as well. But I think it's a really powerful and incredibly inspirational story, in that from this hardship and from all of these no's, it ended up being like this Oscar. And even if it's not an Oscar winning production, to just actually achieve what you did going through those hurdles and those hardships is remarkable. That I have nothing more to say than on that. I just think
Thank you.
that's really cool.
I appreciate. I mean, have to remind myself of that all the time, because you know, it's Dallas Buyers Club, like all these movies, and, you know, rest in peace, Jean-Marc Vallée. But, you know, Dallas Buyers Club, I think, had been around for 20 years, that script. There's just no such thing. Or Queen's Gambit had been around for 20 years. There was a film, there was a this and that. And really, it's a testament to the producers who just stuck with it, who never gave up. They just you know, it took us a really, really long time to have our 2 kids. And I remember our fertility doctor, when we switched doctors after like 4 years, he's a lovely man, but his parting words to me were, if you don't give up, you will have your child.
Ooh.
And I thought, wow, that's just a lot like filmmaking. That's just a lot like our business, you know?
Oh,
And
okay. We've had a lot of.
We have 2. We have 2 now, 2 kids.
Okay, we've had a lot of we've had this a little bit on the podcast, talking about like IVF and sometimes the challenges of birth, and I think it's really important, especially for me, because I didn't know any of this stuff. And we don't need to get too into it if you don't want to. You just let me know how we can navigate this. And I know many people that have had miscarriages, and as like a guy, you're not taught about these things. You don't know anything, and it's come up a lot for me in recent time. And I know that I just saw your daughter Alma, and you named her Ness, and Ness means miracle in Hebrew, correct?
Oh yeah.
I know this is very loaded, and I think you've got what is it, a short or a document? Is it a short or a documentary called?
Yeah, a short documentary, Life Unexpected. Yeah.
Why did you decide to name her Ness or Miracle?
Because we call her, both her and Mila, and Mila, the name Milagro in Spanish, it also means miracle. That's my other daughter, cool. Mila.
Yeah.
We call them our miracles of love and science, because they both, you know, were born via surrogate. Our wonderful surrogate birthed both of them for us, and you know, like our surrogate's African American, and, you know, to see these 2 like Jewish babies, like, you know, being birthed out of this amazing woman. I mean, it's just the wildest. It's science fiction, you know. And without that, oh my God, I feel very, very, very lucky that we live in an era when that science is available to us. It's accepted, you know. I mean, both those girls. My second daughter was born 3 months early. She was born at 25 weeks. She was 709 grams, so a pound and a half when she was born. So, you know, she too, it was a very hard road having these 2 little creatures, but they're perfect. They're perfect.
I like the smile. And the reason I bring it up is because, as I said, a lot of people have spoken about this, and, you know, everyone has various challenges, but I don't think people quite realize how challenging it can be on the body and the mind when things, inverted commas, don't go to plan. And I know I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to watch it afterwards, Life Unexpected. I'm just wondering, like, when you're dealing, and navigate this how you want, if you don't want to include it, that's fine. Like, I believe that you had multiple miscarriages. I think the IVF was also an option, which is can be extremely costly. And that can cause, both from the guy and the girl side, can cause, like, from what I've heard, feelings of insecurities, like mental health issues, and just a whole range of negative emotions, which is completely natural, obviously. And then, you know, hopefully it all works out, and then you come out the other end. I'm just wondering, how did you kind of like cope with that? Because that is extremely stressful and traumatic, and I don't need to add in words. I'm just wondering, how did you kind of cope with that period?
Well, I mean, look, we got pregnant on the first try, when Guy and I were still long distance, LA to Israel.
Yeah.
And, we lost the baby at birth. We lost the baby at the end at 40 weeks. And, Guy landed in the US, got his green card, and 3 weeks later that happened. And, we were talking about earlier, this concept of Kadima, forward, you move forward. I mean, that was like the biggest trauma of my life. I'd never experienced anything like that before. And I really leaned on Guy's family, who are experienced in trauma and grief. Anyone who, living in Israel, Holocaust survivors, and that really helped heal me. And I learned it late, because most people learn it much earlier. But at 35, like, I learned what trauma is. I'd never experienced real trauma before, and I think it deepened me as an artist, just in terms of like I can relate more on a deeper level. I mean, that was one of the key turning point in my life, for sure. And then we embarked on 4 years of nonstop IVF, and I just, it was hard, but I will say, having a great marriage got me through it. A great support team, an awesome therapist. I encourage everyone to have good therapy.
Yep, I'm on the same page.
Yeah. Mental health is just, it's everything. Because if you're not in your right mind, how can you move forward if you're stuck in the muck? And just to have an outsider there sitting before you saying, what you're experiencing is normal. You are normal. It's such a big deal.
Yeah, look, obviously I can't put myself quite in those shoes, but there's a lot going on, and to hear that this is normal, that would have kind of not like changed the moment, but it maybe gave you a bit of breathing space to just kind of cope.
Mm-hmm.
It's so awesome that you had that family and the support. What made you actually want to do Life Unexpected? Was that to like share your story? Was it for healing? Was it to help others? Combination of?
Well, it was the beginning of the pandemic, and everything shut down, and Guy and I had all of these things that were about to go, and blah, blah, blah. And he had made, when he proposed to me, years ago, he had made me a short video to propose, and he rented this little tiny theater in Tel Aviv, and it was just the two of us in this 10-minute video of all of the footage of our relationship, because we'd been long distance for so long, and we had all of this footage that we'd filmed each other's days. He would film his day, I would be sleeping, and I would wake up and I would see all of his whole day, and then vice versa. So we had hundreds of hours. So during the pandemic, Guy was like, I really want to expand that little short. I want to do a 35, 40-minute documentary, because we have so much footage. And I think it's something amazing to show our kids, also to show them how they came into this world, and so we spent the first 6 months of the pandemic holed up with an editor virtually, because he's in Israel, the editor's in Israel, directing this documentary together. And I can, if anyone wants to see it, they can reach out to me on social media, and I can send it to them. It's private, but it's a private link. But yeah, so and in a way, we did it because I wish I would have had a video like that to see while I was going through all of our stuff. I wish I would have, and many people have reached out to me about it.
Oh, that's so awesome when you can share an experience which was obviously very tough, and you can use that experience to better other people. That's challenging as well. It's hard to put yourself out there and kind of relive it. And I know it's worked out very well with your two gorgeous kids. Was that looking at it, did it give you a different perspective? Did it help heal certain wounds? What was it like looking at it kind of the first time or going through those drafts?
Well, there were parts of it that I couldn't watch. I just said, Guy, you're responsible for this section. I can't watch, because he literally filmed, the camera's always on with him. He just always has. He's always filming. Even in hard moments when there were times I didn't even know he was filming. I think that's how he processes things. And I'm totally fine with it. I'm married to a filmmaker, so it comes with the territory. But yeah, I see this film and I'm just so grateful that I have two, healthy kids that, are gonna enter this crazy world with masks on. Unfortunately, no, but I'm glad that they have all this video archive to show their kids and their kids. It's documentation of a struggle and how it wasn't easy. And like, like our doctor said, if you just don't give up, you will have your child. If you just don't give up, you will make your movie. If you just keep going, you will, you got to be the dog with the fucking bone.
Ooh, that is extremely empowering, motivating, uplifting. There's 1,000 other words. As I said at the start, everyone knows of someone that has gone through an experience like this. Maybe not to quite that degree. Is there any advice that you want to maybe like give anyone that's potentially going through something like that?
You are not alone. It is normal. It is normal. It happens to so many of us. You are not alone. And it is not your fault. It needs to be normalized. It needs to be talked about without shame or stigma. And that's what art does. I have given this documentary to so many people, strangers. I've just said, hey, here, I don't know you, but watch this thing. Because oftentimes things that like have to do with women are just, there's so much shame around it. Like getting your fucking period. Why is there shame around getting your period? We exist because our mothers had their periods, and I really want to use art to normalize. It's the great normalizer.
That's why I write as well, because when you see things on TV or movies or even the radio or just art, it changes people's perspective because they're actually seeing it for the first time, even though it's happening all the time, but you can actually like physically see it. And then that's what makes it normal. And that's what attracts me to screenwriting, is that you can, hopefully with a good story as well, you can show something in a different light, and hopefully a positive light that can help inspire people. And that's the same with what you're doing in art and all of that as well. Okay. You mentioned your husband being what sounds like the most romantic guy ever. And now I'm going to have to top that with my girlfriend, because there's no way that I would ever I'm not proposing, but there's no way that cinema experience is the most beautiful story I've ever heard. I don't want to get into a gossip section, but I'm just curious from the working relationship side, because I know that you guys do a lot of projects together and you're producing a lot and he directs a lot and writing, and there's you're also acting. How do you kind of make that work? And if you do separate the working relationship to the relationship, or is it the same? Do you have to separate it? How do you kind of make that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. We haven't done a project yet where I'm acting in it. The next project we're doing, I'm in. So that'll be its own, we're gonna have to sort of learning curve. I think that it just either works for people or it doesn't work for people. Our connection from day one has been about films. Just from the second I met him. We have the same taste, we have the same drive, the same sensibility. And like it's our anniversary. It's our 9-year anniversary tomorrow.
Oh,
Or on Friday, New Year's Eve. And we're going, the nanny's staying here and we're going to see a triple feature. That's what we're doing.
love
We're going
that.
to see West Side Story, Licorice Pizza, and Power of the Dog. I mean, that is how we are spending our anniversary.
Amazing.
And nothing is more fun for us than doing that. So I don't know what to tell you. It just works for us. And for a lot of people, it doesn't. We don't have to work at it so much. I mean, maybe when I'm acting, you know, in a different capacity and not just producing with him, we'll have to sort some things out. But it's been very easy.
But if you can make it work with all the other gazillion projects that you've done, and even just being husband and wife discussing even your projects, which have nothing to do with him, which you can do, if you can do that, then you'll have no problem with the acting side. I just think that's awesome if someone can find someone where they're just in alignment with them. You mentioned you didn't even have to do much work at it. That's also pretty cool. Do you like flick a switch when it's like, okay, you're doing a project and then you go back to like normal husband-wife duties, or doesn't matter, just it's part of it is the relationship in a sense?
It all bleeds into
So cool.
One bleeds into the other. I mean, we you know, it's a giant soup. And what I think is kind of cool is like I just worked with a woman who's in Sarah Polley's new film with Frances McDormand. It hasn't come out yet. I think it's coming out next year. And I saw Claire Foy, who played Queen Elizabeth. Do you remember her?
Yep.
So she was showing me photos from like that when they were shooting. And I just saw like her baby. She's got like a 10-month-old baby that people were just passing around on set. And she would, you know, go act and then go off and nurse and then come back. And then, you know, and I saw Sarah Polley's kids sort of hanging out in the back. And I just thought it was so cool that people recognize that women work. And when you work, you can't just like shut off the part of you that is caring for children. Like sometimes they're going to come, and sometimes, you know, like at the beginning of this interview, I had my 2- and 3-year-old on my lap, and that's just
that's life.
That's just life. And the more we can kind of, I think because women have not led, you know, for all of humanity, basically, like modern humanity, it's been very compartmentalized. But now that women are starting to take way more roles in leadership, you know, now that we're working from home more and there have to be boundaries and then there has to be separation, but also like we're not machines. You know, our children are part of who we are, and it's part of my relationship with Guy and as artists and as, you know, and I think that having a family makes you, gives you more dimension as an artist.
Oh, definitely. And that's rich coming from me because I don't have one, but I can see the impact that it has. But I'm also thinking if you're seeing a child at set, and obviously if there's like the right boundaries, however that works.
Yeah.
Amazing. That would change everything. And I'm just projecting from my point of view because I love babies, I love children. And to see when it works that this is normal and this is part of the human experience, because I know previously speaking to a lot of the female guests, how they were almost ashamed to have a child, and what would they look like if they're pregnant and they're on set, or what happens if I need to leave to nurse my child, and all of these things, which is so unfortunate that we've had to even go through, well, the world's had to go through. And then just hearing a story like that where everyone's just passing a baby along. First of all, that's great for atmosphere and motivation as well, because a baby just makes you light up. And that also changes the game, not just the industry, but everything, like normalizing birth and life and everything. And I think that's crucial as well.
I remember I tested for a pilot years ago when I was pregnant. This is like, you know, 7, 8 years ago. And the director called me before I tested for it, and he said I was pregnant, and he said, so the studio wants to shoot it on August 12th, and I know that you're due August 30th. Would you be open to having a C-section so you can give birth before we shoot?
I'm laughing at the situation. Just so yeah,
insane. That's insane.
Okay, I hope that's a minority. It's so bonkers. How do you respond to something
I
like
haven't
that?
thought about that in so long, but yeah, I'll never forget that. Oh my God. That would never happen to. I mean, when Alma was born, I was shooting, because she was born via surrogate. I was shooting a TV series for NBC. I was in New Mexico. I was in Albuquerque, and she went into labor like a week early or something, and they literally shut down production for 3 days, so I could go and be there to catch her,
Oh, wow. That
be
is,
with her. Maybe they shut down for 2 days, for 48 hours. And then I
regardless, that's
flew
awesome.
back to New Mexico, and I shot for 3 more weeks. I finished out my obligation, and then I went back home. But I mean, I credit that to the Me Too movement. I credit that to, it was a female showrunner, and who's a mom and a gay showrunner who like just got it, and I like kudos to them. Really, I give them a lot of credit for doing that for me.
That takes a special like team as well. The last thing on that, I've heard in speaking to many people on this podcast, off this podcast, just speaking to people in general, and I think I'm hopeful that it's changing. And this doesn't just apply to like Hollywood and the creative industry. That sometimes ladies in particular can be a bit fearful of having children because they feel, and I understand this completely, they can impact their career. And you're an example of how it works. So I'm just wondering, do you have any advice to people that perhaps want to have children, but are a bit scared because they might feel that it will impact their career? And
It's look, it's such a loaded question. Having kids is really hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's really hard. I mean, we have kids 1 year apart, so it's, it makes it even harder. You need to really pursue your career, you need childcare. And I don't know how it is in Australia, but in the US, it's extraordinarily expensive.
heard.
Most of us don't have a village of people to help. Like when growing up in Michigan, I had my grandparents, my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. My mom didn't work. There was always a multitude of family, that proverbial village. They just were there. It wasn't proverbial, it was real. And, we're gypsies. I mean, I was here alone in Vancouver with my 2 little kids and a nanny. It's very hard and expensive. I waited until I was almost 40 to have Alma. So I was to some degree established, but it's really difficult, but obviously really rewarding. And to have something outside of myself that's bigger than myself only helps your art. But at the same time, it's good to have a well-rounded life. For us, like fucking crazy ambitious people who only care about their work, it's really, really good to have someone puking on you at 3 o'clock in the morning, with like projectile diarrhea. I mean, it's true. It takes you out of yourself and out of your own self-importance.
Does it make you more present and grounded in the moment?
Oh my God, for sure. And I love what you said about having a baby on set, because my God, nothing makes you more in the moment than a baby who doesn't lie, who doesn't manipulate, who yanks you into right now. It's just a really cool thing for artists to be around that energy.
He's not really a nephew, he's my first cousin, but we just call him that. And he just says it how it is. And he's the firstborn in the family. So I didn't quite have this appreciation just because it's not in my life, and it changed my perspective. But he just says it how it is. And it could be like quite like brutal at times, but I love it because he doesn't have bad intentions, and he's just happy all the time. And you smile, and it's the greatest. And I can talk about this for ages, but it definitely.
Yesterday, my Alma said to me in Hebrew. She said, "Ima," she took my head in her hands, and she looked at me and said, "Ima, at kol kach yafa," which means in Hebrew, "yafa" means beautiful. "Oh, Ima, mommy, you're so beautiful." And I said, "Oh my God, toda, thank you so much." And kol kach yafa, and she said, "No, at kol kach ayafa," which means tired.
beautiful.
Yafa is beautiful, and Ayafa is
My
tired.
mum, how do you say umbrellas and how do you say mushrooms in Hebrew?
Oh, mitria is an umbrella, and pitria.
Yeah, like patriot.
Yeah, pitria is a mushroom, I think.
My mum got them mixed up and it was raining and she went around to everyone in Hebrew, can I please have some mushrooms to cover my head? And everyone's like, what is wrong with this lady? And yeah,
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
I just wanted to ask this one question before we get into the rapid fire segment. And this is credit to you. And I don't want to keep on pumping up your tires, but I find this also remarkable. You still do acting classes. And I think that's awesome. And just as like a side point, often when one has achieved so much, they can like give up and not want to learn. They're like, I've been there, I've done that. Yeah. Tell me about it. I just think that's awesome.
Oh my God, I'm, first of all, the acting class has been shuttered in the pandemic, so I miss it dearly. No, I always want to be in class. A musician never stops learning. Like a musician, is always practicing, studying, always. I mean, it's a must. So, and, when I'm only limited to what I'm auditioning for, I'm only practicing the muscles on things that I'm ostensibly, stereotypically ripe for. So class lets me be a whole gambit of people, genders, and, it lets me use my imagination to such a, the weakest muscles that I have. It lets me go to the gym. It's going to the gym. And I study with this wonderful teacher named Nancy Banks, and you see people who have won every award on the planet still in class. No, you never ever stop learning. I mean, every set is a master class in in something new. So yeah, I'm in class till I'm out of here.
I love that. And it's also what I'm kind of like picking up on a theme is like lack of ego. And we've all got ego, but when you've done as much as you have and you've just achieved a lot, you do see people where they feel like they've arrived. And I know this was just early on, and I know most people don't think like this, but when we were going back to do additional study, like, why would I do that? I've already done the study. I've already done this. And I find that really toxic and unhelpful. And especially maybe in your industry where perception is important, some people might cross their arms and go, why would I need to get better? Or why do I need to do this? I've already done all of this, but that's not you. And you've also been talking about the ego side of just your life and how you've been humbled, and just having kids like puke on you, for example, kind of like grounds you.
Well, my husband just shot it. Hold on, let me just turn it down to okay. My husband just finished shooting a film with Helen Mirren. Helen Mirren was the lead. And she was very nervous entering this film. She was very, very nervous. She was in prosthetics, that she'd never used prosthetics before, and this kind of wig she'd never used before. And here's someone who's 76 years old, won, Oscars, Tonys, like the whole thing. Helen fucking Mirren, she's a dame. And she is, coming into it like a child with her eyes wide open, like, whoa, how do I do this? What do I do? And that's just awesome. I love that. It's the coolest part of our job is that it's just never, ever boring.
Mima, it's for Pinkalicious.
Shnia, baby. Okay, I got to get Pinkalicious up.
Wait, did I cut you off? I forgot the last thing.
Helen Mirren. I was just saying Helen Mirren. Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a rapid fire segment to wrap up the podcast. So the first thing that springs to mind, but if you need time to think about it, that's completely fine. What brings out the best creative content out of you?
Music.
Oh, yes. I forgot that you're a pro musician as well. Are you still in a band?
Not for a long time. Not for a long time. But music is definitely like really stirs up things in me that Music and movies.
Is
Being inspired by other people.
Is performing from the singing side something that once everything's over, is that something that you would reconsider?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. For the right role, maybe, but not maybe not as a standalone.
Okay. What's been your special ingredient to work all these years?
Well, you're asking me hard questions, Michael. Special ingredient. Staying in class.
If you could gain any skill in the world, which one would it be?
Play the piano.
What can you play?
I don't. No, not really. I would love to.
That means you can. Favorite thing about yourself?
My tenacity.
I know you're married and you've got 2 lovely kids. If you're on Tinder, what would your bio say about you?
Oh God. Has been every shade of red known to man.
What would you do if you knew you could not fail?
A lot more theater.
Biggest pet peeve?
Talking during a movie.
No one said that one, and I'm surprised. This has been over 150 episodes. Next big dream or goal?
What?
Next big dream or goal?
Keep producing. We have a project that we're, a project called Harmonia, to make Harmonia. You just keep producing. I'm doing what I want to do, but just keep on doing what I want to do.
Any advice you'd like to give to people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
It doesn't matter what is going on in your head, the thoughts in your head, as long as you put one foot in front of the other, everything will be okay. Thoughts are just thoughts.
I'm not going to comment on them, but I love that. Okay, that was great. What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you performing?
I was doing a play where I had to, it was a musical. It was like a play with music, and I was in the middle of singing, for like 500 people. And I had the whole band was going, and I sneezed, and the band had to stop. I had snot dripping out of my nose and go back and start again for me.
That's amazing.
That was awful.
You're laughing, so it means you've done the work and you've healed, but I'm sure in the moment, how did you continue after that? Was it hard, or you just like, I don't remember.
It was a long time ago, but it was yeah.
If you could go back into the time when you were first starting out, what advice would you give yourself and why?
Don't take it so personally. I'm sure you've heard that a lot. Don't do your best and then move on. There will be more. There will be others.
This is my favorite question. Before I ask how people can check out your socials, all the amazing things that you're producing, what is the one question I should have asked you?
My worst audition.
What's your worst audition?
I had an audition. This is, a bunch of years ago, and the audition went fine, but the casting director called my manager afterwards and said, "You need to tell your client, Jaime Ray Newman, never to wear tank tops to auditions because she has fat arms."
Oh my God. What the fuck? Okay. What?
Now, I mean, come on, like,
Oh, you've got.
No, come on, here we go. But even if I had fat arms, like.
Yeah, not appropriate, but not true.
Can you believe that?
I can't actually, and I'm surprised. I've heard it. I thought I've heard it all, and you definitely.
That was directed.
I'll hopefully show a clip of that in the podcast.
But I want to say these same casting directors called my manager about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, and said, "You need to tell Jaime Ray Newman to get out of the early 2000s and chop all her hair off." And my manager called me and told me that. And instead of me getting defensive about it, I was just like, you know what? I should chop all my hair off. I've never had short hair. And I should just, and literally like a month later, I chopped 2 feet of hair off. And it's been the most glorious. I've gotten roles that I never, it's just opened up so much for me. Yeah.
So what's the relationship with taking on feedback? Because there's one bit of feedback which we'll agree to disagree with this casting director, and then you've obviously taken on some feedback and it's worked out well for you. How do you navigate that? Because that's just ridiculous.
That's actually great. You know, navigating feedback. You should do a whole podcast on that. What to take and what to scrap.
Yeah.
Sort that out with your therapist.
Oh, awesome. So before we go, how can people follow you? I know that you've got a lot of projects in the works and are coming out soon. Tell us about it and how can people find you?
Well, most recently I did a miniseries called Dopestick. So Dopestick is already out. So you can see that. It's on Hulu in the US. I don't know, like I'm in Canada right now. It's on Crave, I think, or I don't know. So check that out. It's a very important 8-part miniseries about the opioid epidemic with Michael Keaton and a bunch of other really interesting actors. And then I have a miniseries for HBO based on The Time Traveler's Wife, the book.
This is so exciting.
That's coming out next year sometime. I just finished that. And actually that's an interesting story because talking about like the 10 years later thing, the director of that, David Nutter, directed the first series that I ever did called Eastwick that was based on The Witches of Eastwick, which is a movie. And he directed me in that 10 years ago. And when we got canceled, he said, don't worry, we'll work together again. We will find each other again. And it took 10 years, like literally to the month, 10 years until he cast me in this. So it was,
so cool.
So I have that coming out this coming year. And then I just shot this series up in Canada here called Grendel for Netflix. And it's based on a big comic book from the 80s. And that this is probably going to come out late 2022, 2023. And I'm on Instagram. I mean, I'm not that active. I'm on Instagram at, I think it's Jaime Ray Newman for real, Jaime. And then you should follow my husband because he's much more active than me, Guy Nattiv, Nattiv. He's the better one to follow.
Okay. We'll upload in the episode notes yours and his Instagram.
And his.
You mentioned the link for, what was it, Life Unexpected. Did you want me to include that in the episode notes?
No, because we have a distributor. What I would say is like, if you want to see the documentary, they can reach out personally to me on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Is there anything else? Is there anything that maybe we missed, or are we good to go?
I think we're good to go. This was really fun. Let me see your view out of your window. What are you looking at right now?
Ooh, it's amazing. Can you see?
Not really. I just see the sky.
I'm very spoiled. This is my parents' place.
Oh my God.
I'm a little embarrassed.
What body of water is that?
What do you mean?
What ocean is that? Is that
It's just the beach. I don't know what it connects to.
Is it a lake? Is it the ocean? Is it?
No, it's the ocean.
Wow.
I know. I'm very lucky, and I haven't been here for 2 years because of all the borders, and it's a dream come true. But thank you for your time. You are amazing. You're uplifting. You're empowering. The whole works. I appreciate your time.
I'll show you this really quickly. Here's, I don't know, it's hard to see, but
holy moly,
our beautiful view. Yeah.
Whoa, I didn't think anyone could one-up me, and you have done. Look at the lights.
No, it's the beaches, but it's right on the water with the boats. And anyway.
Oh, very nice. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
All right, Michael.
Thank you. I love Jamie's take on moving forward, or as she says in Hebrew, Kadima. We all have our ups and downs, and that's to be expected. However, Jamie believes in transmuting the negatives into the positives and turning this energy into a forward momentum of growth. This forward-moving mindset, or Kadima, has become a way of life which enables her to cherish both the highs and lows of life. Jamie goes one step further and highlights how family, great relationships, and therapy have been essential for her growth and healing. She encourages everyone to get good therapy. And as she says, if you're not in the right mind, how can you move forward if you're stuck in the muck? She ends with saying, whatever you're going through, you are normal. So I'll leave you with this gem of a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. If you can't fly, then run. You can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. If you like this episode, share it around, tell your mates. It really helps grow the podcast and spread the positivity and love. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.